This week, we start to explore the topic of leadership. So what exactly is leadership? Warren Bennis, who is a scholar in the field of leadership, an author, and a consultant, offered the following quote: "Leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality." And I think that summarizes the topic quite well for our discussion. We understand that the leader is one who works on that vision, that big picture, strategically plans, and then works with the team, clients, in creating tactics. So what are the qualities of leadership? Now, we could take a semester, we could take a year in studying this topic, because it's huge, obviously, and you'll continue to explore this, I hope, beyond this class. But as I sat back and I thought about what's it mean to be a leader, whether it's in the corporate setting, whether it's in working with our clients, whether it's individual in other fields, military, for example, I think the quality, those characteristics transcend our particular focus. And when I sit back and I think about it, immediately that vision, that strategic thinking is obviously a big piece of it. High ethics, integrity, and an authenticity in communicating with your team, with the clients. A self-awareness of your emotional, and that comes down to emotional intelligence, and a subject you'll be exploring this week. But a self-awareness of your strengths, your limitations. A commitment to your people, whether that's the team, your clients. And with that commitment, the idea that you're there to empower the client, you're there to help your team members develop their skill sets, use their skill sets. Clearly, I think there's a competency piece in there. Not that the leader perhaps is in the trenches doing a lot of the small work, but clearly I think that competency in helping them help the team, help the clients see their way. Courage. And courage can come in a lot of different ways. Courage of your conviction, a courage to be willing to adapt and to innovate, a courage to realize when your limitations, for example. And of course, that inspirational piece of it, the motivator, and the ability to communicate. But these are some issues that I thought about. Years ago, I read a fascinating book by Mortimer Adler called How to Read a Book. Great. And of course, the title probably could have been a little better, but the title exactly sums up to what was in there. And one of the core items that he talked about, one of those takeaways, those ahas for me that I carried with me ever since I first read that book, was the idea of syntopic research. And that term that he phrased referred to the idea that if you want to learn a subject, you could go to the library and take out 12 to 15 books on that subject. Lay them out on the table. Look at the table of contents in each one of the books. Look at the index and start to look for those topics that are similar, because the key truths, per se, those key topics within that subject you're researching will show up in just about every book. And then once you read a couple of the books, you understand, for the most part, the content in all the books. But then, just like you're looking at different chefs, they all have their major components being the same. They might have their own special ingredients. The idea was to then look through the books quickly by using some techniques for moving through books quicker once you've read a couple in detail. Look for those differences, those unique ingredients. A fascinating way to quickly research a topic, and this works. I've used it on several occasions, and I'm sharing that with you because I thought it might be useful as we think about what are the qualities of leadership and kind of expand upon some of the thoughts that I had. Let's do some syntopic research here, and we'll look at a book, we'll look at online videos, we'll look at a little course, and we'll move through very quickly and then come back and maybe compare some of the similarities that we find in looking how we might be using that with our clients. There was a really top-selling book back in the 80s called In Search of Excellence. And this was the follow-up book to this. I think it was in 1985, maybe 1988. The Peters and Austin wrote the book Passion for Excellence, The Leadership Difference. And that in that study, the authors went to corporate America and they were looking for similarities in leadership, and they were using specific examples, corporate, service world. And they came up with 4 major ideas. One, these companies or these individuals that exhibited a leadership difference had a obsession for the customer. In other words, exceptional service, exceptional courtesy to their clients, to their customers. They listened to what the client was saying. They worked hard in order to create a perception of quality. They developed a culture of innovation. They rewarded those people on the team who would think outside the box for solutions, for new ideas, for opportunities. They were committed to their people. They were committed to the team. They cared for them. They created, and that in fact created a sense of ownership within the company. And that gets contagious where there's pride, there's enthusiasm in what they're doing. And there was a culture of mutual respect, and that comes from a culture where there's real integrity. And some of the characteristics that they saw in the leadership, they were motivators, they were nurturers, they were approachable, they facilitated change, they facilitated growth, they facilitated quality, and they certainly were builders. Bill Bauer, vice president of Johnson & Johnson, later became a speaker, shared 6 C's of leadership credibility. He advocated the first C, conviction, to the team, to the client, character, integrity, honesty, trust, care, concern for the team's well-being, for their growth, courage, to stand up for beliefs, to be willing to change, to accept responsibility, and to accept responsibility for their own failures. Composure, coming back to emotional intelligence, appropriate emotional reaction, composure when everyone else starts to panic. And competence, not just in their field but also in the interpersonal. It's the art and the science. Brian Tracy, a motivational speaker, does a lot of work on goals, writing down goals and that sort of thing, offered 7 essential qualities of all great leaders. A vision, ability to see the path, to create the dream, to see that strategic way. Courage, willingness to take on reasonable risk for a given level of expected return or success. Integrity, truthfulness, trustworthiness. Humility, willing to acknowledge others. And that, in fact, empowers the team, right? Strategic planning, ability to plan for transformation, and a focus, the needs of the client, focusing on the needs of the company. Do you start to see, as we do this syntopic research, start to see those similarities, some of those core themes coming through? In a video by John Maxwell, and he was talking about the 5 levels of leadership, I thought the top 2, the pinnacle, is people development, positioning your people for success, building that team, empowering them, which in fact then builds that sense of ownership, that sense of pride, right? And then that respect, that mutual respect. The great leaders respect their people, their clients, and that is reciprocal. Britt Andreatta offers a Leadership's Fundamentals course that is available to you through your MyCLU system from lynda.com. And in that, as I went through that presentation, these are the major themes that came out. First of all, integrity and authenticity. Again, completely aligns with work we see from the other contributors so far in my discussion. Self-awareness of strengths, emotional intelligence, self-confidence, adaptability. The focus on the relationship and the team building. Again, those interpersonal skills, that teamwork, that emotional intelligence, relationship, and of course that translates for us with our client relationships, the client-planner relationship. Industry acumen, technical skills, functional skills, and then that organizational strategy, that ability to see and vocalize the vision, create that strategic planning to achieve that, to make that then material, right? And then the tactics. John Maxwell, author of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, shares a lot. There's a few that I list here, and you can see that, first of all, we believe we can influence others. We believe that leadership is an ongoing process. Leaders are in service to others. Serving others creates value. It raises the whole organization. It raises the client planner situation. Mutual respect. Leadership is about empowering others, and the idea that people buy into the leader, that vision, or they buy into that that person before they buy into the vision. Again, some of these laws that he's putting out there align with what we continue to see in all these presentations. There was an interesting presentation to look at later in the course on client relationship management by Andrew Sobel. And you can see this gets into working with our clients, and the 6 major areas as I went through that: building and managing the relationship. So it's earning the client's trust, advocating for the client, being compassionate, the empathy that you'll be talking about when you listen to my presentation on emotional intelligence, and having a clear vision of what you want that relationship to be. What are the mechanics of that interaction as you go through the years of the relationship? Developing personal and professional networks. Yes, we develop our niche, our areas of expertise, and we augment that with our professional networks. We create those professional networks, perhaps center of influences, so that we can continue to interact and get more clients and likewise give back in referrals, references. Team building and leadership skills. The right people provide mentoring and coaching. And by right people, it's not only your team, but I think also the right clients, right? The clients that align with your personality, the skill set, those areas you want to focus on. Provide the mentoring, the coaching, being that leader and accepting accountability. Being an ambassador for the firm, certainly that infers being a real champion for the values, the culture, the high ideals. Team orientation, and putting the right people in place, whether it's in-house or that professional network. Personal development, the idea that we continue lifelong learning, we continue to up our skill sets, our technical skill sets in financial planning, our abilities for time management, prioritization, lifetime learning, and I think that as a leader of a team, helping others around you improve their competencies. And thought leadership, big picture thinking, vision, outside the box effective solutions, developing that intellectual capital. Marshall Goldsmith, qualities of trusted advisors, developing that expertise in your area, so becoming an expert in that niche, aligning goals with your clients. That's that integrity, I think. That's that authenticity. The willingness to walk away if you can't help the client. So again, that comes down to what we're expected to do as financial planners. And be willing to have the difficult discussions by telling the truth. And the willingness to have those difficult discussions is one of the primary actions which builds trust for our client. Michael Hogan in chapter 3 of the textbook on leadership, he talks about the social identity, how the group leader is that prototypical of the group values. The leader promotes, advocates, carries on those core cultures, and I think that's certainly within our firm. And when our ideals are aligned with our clients, you can see how this, I think, follows through, and you'll read this in your chapter. So as I sit back and I go through those slides, which represent those different readings per se, that's syntopic research very quickly that I did here, I think there's some consistent themes. The qualities being high ethical standards, self-awareness, bringing that confidence, being relationship focused, having those technical and communication skills, and bring that whole strategic process together. And when I think about each of those in the context of working with our financial planning clients, well, certainly we're expected to bring high ethical ethics with us. Our clients deserve that. They need that. We need to deliver on our promises. The idea that sometimes we should under-promise and over-create or over-provide, provide in services. A culture of integrity. A culture which is completely focused on the client. Actions, transparency, designed to improve to make sure it's optimal truthfulness and create that atmosphere of trust. Understanding our own strengths, building those, continue building those, and where we're limited, bring in our professional networks, or in that case, don't accept that person as a client. And certainly there's efficiencies in making sure we understand our niche and creating wonderful, wonderful value within that niche and not trying to go outside of that unless that's something we consciously want to develop. Being aware of our own emotionals, our abilities to react appropriately, our abilities to see that in our clients and to build those relationships. So it's that emotional intelligence. With relationships, a statement I'm sure you've heard me say in the past, clients don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. That's the heart of the relationship, and clearly where our industry has gone. Also developing those professional networks. Bringing those communication skills to understand our client, to listen to our client, to bring that compassionate empathy to be able to then help our client react emotionally in positive ways rather than self-sabotaging. And likewise, understanding our own weaknesses and building upon those. Technical acumen, which you are certainly doing by being part and graduating from this program, and having that process orientation focused on the 6-step strategic process, helping the client always move towards those goals, framing the conversations in a way that our recommendations are aligned with the client's goals, and in communicating that, letting the client know the consequences of acting on those recommendations and inaction on those. What are the consequences in relation to those prioritized goals of the client? Well, as I bring this conversation, and clearly this video is a conversation, I ask you to reflect. Reflect upon what is your definition of client leadership. Perhaps you could continue this syntopic research right now in this given week in the term, but certainly as you continue forward. What do you think are those skill sets? What do you have right now? What do you want to develop? Where do you see some weaknesses? And always understanding our own limitations is the way to grow, to improve. Does your definition include these items that are within my mind right now? Would you add to this? Would you take that away? What would what are some of those sub items off of there that you might find useful? Leadership is so important, I think, and that's what we'll be looking at over the next 5 weeks. You'll be looking at the social psychology of client leadership now as we move forward in the upcoming weeks in certain situations. How can we lead our clients to more, I don't want to say just better, but more positive spending patterns? How can that balance between immediate consumption and savings for the future better align with that income smoothing, that need throughout a lifetime? How can we lead our clients? Persuasion, motivation, helping communicate knowledge and all those issues, helping the client move from a risk tolerance, conservative, moderately assertive, which really is not optimal for the client's need, their time horizon, and obviously what we know is the power of compounding. How do we help our clients through conflict between the spouses, the partners? How do we deal with intergenerational issues? So interesting as we move forward. Well, that concludes this lecture, but certainly does not include our conversations about leadership.